familiar to you, yeah. Yeah, so probably I won't need surgery. Back surgery is just too weird.
Well, that's the last resort.
It's the absolute last resort, so I hope that, you know, an epidural will just keep, you know, then. Oh, much better, yeah. Those are good for you for wearing colorful socks.
I sort of was story about colorful socks.
I want to go, thanks for asking.
My youngest, kind of livened up my style a few years ago. So she bought me this subscription to, I forget what the name of the order, something or other. And every month, a crazy pair of socks would show up.
That's hysterical! Fun socks of the month club.
Yeah. So,
And I will see you guys in a minute, and I think hopefully we'll have a minion.
speaking of, where's Marshall? Did you forget him?
Yeah,
You forgot him? Okay. Didn't realize you left home without him.
American Express, don't leave home without it. So anyway, it is, so they sent a bus to his house. He was very big on telling kids all these wonderful sayings and from the doctor. So inside the bus, they sent the bus to his house to pick him up and talking about, you know, being happy and being impressed.
I'm getting better. It wasn't a fall. It was strain.
Am I in your way? Should I move over?
Dina and Lisa, could we get some cantorial support
You don't want to
in our
conversation
service?
picked up on the
Okay.
microphone. No, I won't.
Go ahead.
So we looked him up, and he took us around town, us in the box, and he was telling us that one
To escape the Inquisition, or before the Inquisition? Okay.
when the Inquisition occurs, the Jews always
something else comes out. That's where we go. Anyhow, all my dogs are great, except for
Let's begin. Everybody, can I ask everyone to please find their place? If I could ask the kids to come and join us. For some reason, so I'm going to say, I know you ordered. Oh! And there's your, that's the board sheet that I told you. Okay, scroll down.
Shabbat.
If everyone take out their tallit, please. So everybody, there are two greetings this morning. Shabbat Shalom and Chodesh Tov. Have a good new month. The new month of Nisan begins today. Now, when you have two greetings, kids, that you're supposed to give somebody else, which greeting do you give first? The greeting for Shabbat or the greeting for Rosh Chodesh? And the answer is you do the greeting for Shabbat first, because you do the one that's more regular and then the one that's unusual. I think we think in America that, go with the unusual first. But Judaism teaches us something a little different. Go with the routine, go with the regular first, and then layer onto that what is special. There is something else that we acknowledge today, which is this Shabbat has a special name. It's Shabbat HaChodesh. It says in the Bible, we're going to read that passage today, this month is for you the first of months. It's springtime. It's not when we celebrate the Jewish New Year, that's in the fall, but the springtime is another kind of New Year. The flowers are about to break through. It's going to become beautiful outside again in the next few weeks. All the color, all the richness. So for this Shabbat, we think about the turning towards spring, we think about the new month, and we also have a regular Torah reading, Parshat Tazria. So a lot going on today. We have a choice of, normally in normal times we would have taken out 3 Torah scrolls today. It's one of the very few times in the year where you would have 3 Torah scrolls. But we are going to do 2 Torah scrolls, the regular reading and the special reading for the month of Nisan. So that's the background for today's rather special service. For those of us taking out a talit, we open the talit in front of us. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kishanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu le'itatei bat tzitzit. Amen. And again, I just want to apologize in advance for any confusion. I will sometimes during the service today announce that a prayer is part of the service that is done while we are standing. I am going to continue to be a little gentle on my back as it is recovering and sit occasionally. And again, those who are able to stand when we say please rise, please do. So we are going to begin our service now in our Siddur on page 101, Ma Tovu. Ma Tovu is always an opportunity to reflect on a couple of things. First of all, to welcome those who are joining us online. So Shabbat Shalom and Chodesh Tov to all those who are in our individual beautiful homes. This space, which is sunny and bright, it is actually, I don't know why it's not cold again, but it is sunny and beautiful outside. And also our sanctuary, which is getting beautified and is, I believe, well underway in getting the carpeting put down, which is going to be really the big next step. But Tofu Alecha Yaakov, all of our places are beautiful. Page 101 in the Sidur, page 101, Ma Tofu. Please stand together, your Chod HaShachar, the morning blessings, the inventory of our bodies and our community. 103. you. Please be seated, everyone. Page 112. One of the functions of the Psalms that we recite in the morning is to tell us where are we in the week, where are we in the month. So we're going to chant now a psalm on page 112, Psalm 92 for Shabbat, and then we'll add a second psalm that tells us it is Rosh Chodesh. These are the psalms that would have been recited in the temple in Jerusalem on a day like today. Page 112, and we'll include 4 lines from the bottom with Sadiq Katam.
Ayom Yom Shabbat Kodesh Moelim bring Beit HaMikdash Kitzevor Shir Le'yom HaShabbat Mizmor Shir Le'yom HaShabbat Mizmor Shir Le'yom HaShabbat Mizmor Shir Le'yom HaShabbat Tov lehodol Adonai ולזמר לשמך עליון ולזמר לשמך עליון לפעמים בבוקר חסדך אמונתך עלינו.
Page 114, the Psalm for Rosh Chodesh. The new month is sort of a miniature Rosh Hashanah. And this psalm, if you take a look at it in English, is all about how God created the world. I want to just share with you a little bit from the last paragraph. From the heavens you gave drink to the mountains. How does God give drink to the mountains? There's snowfall, it melts, the mountains have rivers in them, wild grasses grow as feed for animals, so bread could come forth from the earth. Wine, why is there wine? To cheer people's hearts, and oil to brighten their faces, and food to sustain people's lives. Page 114 and then 115, the Psalm for Rosh Chodesh.
Ayom Shabbat
Page 115. The mourners and anyone recalling a yard site on this Shabbat, the anniversary of the death We recite together the Mourner's Kaddish now on page 121. Yikadal, Yikadash, Neira, Yomad, Yirah, Yerutei, Yamit, Malutei, Zechaye, Yom, Yom Ekon, Zechaye, Yehovah, Israel, Ba'agalah, Bisman, Kori, Yeberu, Amen. Yehenshmei, Rabba, Vorah, Vilon, Yoreh, Yiforah, V'yishkabat, V'yifamar, V'yikroman, V'yikaseh. V'yikadar, v'yitaleh, v'yitamal, shemei v'yushan, v'yikru, v'yelon, v'yikol, v'yirkata, v'shirata, tushbekata, v'nekamata, damiran, v'yama, v'yiru, amen. Yehen shlomo rabo, v'yishmaya, v'chayim aleluya, o Yisrael, v'yiru, amen. Oseh shalom v'roma, Hu Yaseh Shalom, Alleluia, O Yisrael, Amen. Let's all join together, let's stand together, page 122, for Rosh Hashanah.
Baruch Shemar V'Hayal Olam. Baruch Oseh Bereshit. Baruch Gozer U'Mekayem. Baruch Merachem Al Habriot. Baruch Echad V'Kayam Lanetzach. Yachid Chelamim Melech Mishpach Mo'adei Ad Shemo HaGadol Baruch Atah Adonai Shalom V'Cholal V'Tishpacho.
Please be seated, everyone. To our students, I just want to point out the footnote on page 122, or the side note. Where does the word Jew come from? It's an important word. And we're told here that the word Jew comes from our ancestor Judah, Yehudah, and it means to be grateful, to be thankful. And that's part of what this prayer is about, expressing gratitude. Page 136 now, the Psalm.
Ashrei Oshrei Beitecha Ojihalucha Selah. V'anachnu nevarech Yah me'ata v'ad olam. Hallelujah.
Page 141, Psalm 150. So we'll now conclude the book of Psalms with Hallelujah. We turn now to page 143. I just wanted to say a brief word about the song at the sea. You notice on page 143 and 144 we get two versions of the song. The version that Moses sang and the version that Miriam sang. And I wanted to point out, guys, that actually their songs are different. What does Moses say? Moses says, Ashira Ladonai, I will sing to God in the future and in the singular. But what is it that Miriam says when she gathers the people together? She does it in the plural and in the present tense. So we notice that this actually gives us two different visions of what redemption is about. The ways in which we can feel protected in this world, in this moment as a community, and also about what our hopes are for ourselves as individuals for the future. It is interesting to note that Miriam's language is the more embracing and inclusive language there. So the cantor is going to begin with the opening lines of the Song at the Sea, page 143, and then we'll pick up from the 7th line on page 144. Second word, 7 lines down. We turn forward to page 147, the second paragraph, the formal beginning of Shachari. Shochena. Let's stand together to Hatzik Kaddish, introducing the Lord. Please be seated, everyone. So how many planets are there? 9, right? So people argue about Pluto these days. But in the ancient world, they knew that there were 5 planets. And there were 5 planets, and then there was the sun, and then there was the moon. And they thought that the 5 planets, the sun and the moon, all rotated around the world. So 5 plus 2 around the earth. 5 plus 2 is 7, which is our magic number. It's the number of days in the week. So for our ancestors, when they looked up in the sky, everything reinforced the idea of Shabbat and of the work week. The idea of 7 items in the sky that teach us that what we live, how we live, reflects the way the world of nature works. So the song El Adon that we recite now on page 151 has code words in it in the Hebrew that refer to those different 7 moving planets that go around, as well as the sun and the moon. And again, tells us, look to the sky and find reinforcement in the sky for our belief that there can be peace, there can be order, and that Shabbat and the work week all fit together in a way that mirrors the heavens as well. So the cantor will begin at the bottom of page 150 with the lines that introduce El Adon. And I've got to tell you, it is so wonderful to hear everybody's voice join in singing now. We have really, really missed hearing these voices for the last couple of years. So we'll do a rousing El Adon this morning, page 150 at the bottom, and then 151.
Amen.
Page 153 now, the paragraph at the bottom of the page, one of the blessings that introduce the Shabbat.
Teofani b'chayot ha'kodesh v'ra'ash gadol מתנסים לעומת סרפים לרוב משתואפים יום פנים ברוך אדוני בטובו בכל יום פעמים מעשה בראשית אמור לעושרים גדולים
continue quietly on 156, and then we'll recite the third paragraph of the Shabbat.
Lema'an we make them, Ad Ma'azamah, Asher Nishba Adonai Lavotetam Nateh Lahem, Himei HaShamayim Ha'aretz.
So in a moment, we are going to stand together for the Amidah. The morning Amidah includes, oh, Michelle, can I just ask the kids stay for one more minute? Just for one more minute, because I want to ask you guys to participate for a second. In the middle of the Amidah for Shachari, there is a special paragraph we had for Rosh Chodesh, asking for our prayers for what the new month will contain. What's going to happen this month? So I wanted to ask our students, before you go back to your classrooms, is there any hope or prayer you have for the month ahead? Something for yourself personally, your families, your schools, the world, something you would like to see during the next month, during the month of Nisan. Anybody want to jump in and suggest something that you would like to pray for the new month of Nisan? And the adults can think as well. Yes, please name. I'm sorry? Warmer? Yeah, springtime. Crocuses and warmth. Yes, please. Peace. And where are we thinking about peace in particular right now? The war in Eastern Europe and Ukraine, and peace in the Holy Land, and peace in Israel. Thank you. Prayer for peace. Anything else? School should move quickly towards summer vacation. Anything anybody else would like to add before the kids go? Yeah, Phil.
Good health from all of us are suffering from any kind of malady.
Absolutely. Good health, physical health, and mental well-being. This has been such a stressful time for everyone. Yes? Oh, and we should find a sane and good path for getting through Passover this year and enjoying the holiday. Chodesh Tov, Shabbat Shalom, kids. So, again, when we get to the quiet part of the Amidah, you might want to focus on some of those blessings that we're hoping to for the year, for the month ahead. So let's turn in our Siddur now to page 158, the concluding lines beginning with Tehilot L'El Elyon, to introduce the Shachari Amidah. So you look at 158.
B'chamo Havayim Adonai, B'chamo Hanedar B'kodesh, Norat Tehilot, Oseh V'Elet, B'chamo Havayim Adonai, B'chamo Hanedar B'kodesh, Norat Tehilot, Oseh Shira Chadasha, Shivehu Geonim Leshimcha, Asfat Hayam, Yafat Ulam, Odu Beni Melichu, Odu Beni Melichu, Odu Beni Melichu,
Taste-wise, Sur Yisrael.
Sur Yisrael, Umate Yisrael, Ufektim Mechai, Yehuda Yisrael, O Ameinu, Ameinu, Elosh Yisrael, Baruch Adonai.
We begin together 159.
Hey,
Page 165, the priesthood blessing, and then the prayer for peace. Sim Shalom Babylon. We remain standing. It is Rosh Chodesh, so we take a moment now for the Psalms of Hallel. I just want to point out that this is also part of our preparation for our Passover Seders. The Psalms of Hallel we're about to recite are divided and are recited in the Haggadah before and after the meal. So you might want to take a look at the note on page 316, which gives you a deeper sense of the meaning and order of these psalms. Dina is here to lead us. The Psalms of Hallel will be omitting a number of psalms because on Rosh Chodesh we recite the shorter psalms.
I'm sorry, just totally off this one. Let's try it again. Okay, not supposed to do the whole thing, but maybe.
Middle of page 318. Middle.
5 lines down on page 320.
Yashimote, thank you. Kadisha, page 321. Please be seated, everyone. I just want to give everyone a moment to be seated before we take out the Sifrei Torah, so let me introduce this week's Torah portion first, and then we'll take the Torah scrolls out of the ark. The passage we are going to read this morning from Parshat Tazria is a passage that for hundreds of years, no one has really known what should we say about it. How do we make this come alive? It's the passage dealing with what happens when you notice in a person's hair or garments or in their home that there's something that looks like it might be an infection. There's something that it looks like it might be a contamination. And we always talked about it's called leprosy, but houses don't get leprosy and clothing doesn't. So what is this all about and why should it concern us? And then along came COVID. And we learned all about the importance of quarantine and of looking for signs and of having a public health network that is responsible for taking care of us and for helping us decide how long should we be in quarantine and when should we come out. That, my friends, is exactly what we're going to read about in this morning's Torah portion from Parshat Tazria. The priests, who were the leaders of the community, were trained in identifying the signs of illness and contamination. What is something that's just going to go away, and what is something that could spread throughout the community? How long, depending on the signs, does an individual need to go into quarantine? So we see in this passage something very important about the life of the community in ancient Israel, but it's also true for us as well. That when the community would come together for the holidays, they would be in massive numbers and in close quarters. And the plague could spread very quickly through the community. So the priests, who were the leaders, were trained to be able to decide who is safe, who is not safe, who needs to wear a mask, who needs to go away for a little while and then come back. So please, as we're reading the passage from our first Torah scroll this morning, take a look at those little details and see how this was part of something dealing with the overall spiritual economy of the community, and also it was about public health. Both things are there. So the service now for taking out, again, as I mentioned earlier, we're going to take out 2 Sifrei Torah. We're going to read from the second Torah, the passage that gets us ready for Passover. So we'll begin together on page 168, Ein Kamocha, and then the ark will be opened in the middle of the page, and those who are able will stand together. Ein Kamocha, 168.
Ein kamocha v'elokim Adonai, v'ein k'ashercha, malchut malchut, olamim, u'memshaltecha, b'chol dor v'dor, Adonai melech, Adonai malach, Adonai Yimod le'olam va'ed, Adonai oz li'amo yitein, Adonai yivarech et amo v'shalom. Rachamim ve'jiv ha'mitzvotecha etzivon. Vayikibim Zoharon, Vayomer Moshe, Ku'adonai, V'yafusu Einecha, V'yanusu Misanecha, Mifanecha, Ki Mitzion Tetzei Torah, Ki Mitzion Tetzei Torah, U'Adonai Yerushalayim, Torah, Torah, Amen.
171, the Shabbat.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adonenu, Kadosh Shemo.
Echad Eloheinu, Adonai Eloheinu, Kadosh Shemo.
God knows Almighty, Uleron Hashem,
Please be seated, everyone. Please make sure you have a flush. So again, our reading now is from Parshat Tazri. Help me on the each other.
Reading found on page 654, chapter 13, 655, chapter 13, verse 9.
If we have, I'm sure we will.
Maria והנה מראהו מן האור, ושיער שחור עימו, והזכיר להם את גננת שבעת ימים, וראה הכהן את הנגע ביום השביעי, הנה לא עשה נתק ולא יושע שיער זהב, ומראה הנתק אין עמוק מן האור, והתגלח ואת הנתק לא יגלח והזכיר הכהן את הנתק שבעת ימים שנית, וראה הכהן את הנתק ביום השביעי, והנה לא עשה נתק באור, איננו עמוק מן האור, וטהרתו וכתס בגדיו וטהר.
Our reading continues on page 656 with verse 35.
Amo, Raquel Reinevent. Rav Abraham Yitzchak Sarah. Lalia Hashem Shenit.
Amen. V'pasoyifzen hanetek be'or acharei tarato v'rago erinei hasanetek ba'or lo yivaker kohen l'se'ar hasamov tameku ואם בינם נתק לשיער שחור צפון, ירפד נתק תערו ותיהרו הכהן ואיש או אישה תהיה לאור בשרה, והרות לבנות ורק כהן והנה יורסם והרות ועוד לבנות וחבו הרח בהור תחורקו.
Our reading continues on page 657 with verse 40.
Amo, Zipporah, David, Levi, Latana, Rachel, Lalia Hashem Shenit.
Baruch
We stand together now as the first sacred Torah is lifted and please be seated, everyone. The reading from the reading from the second scroll is found on page 380 in the Magi. We're going to read now an excerpt from the volunteer reading. It is a unusually long reading, usually. We're going to read part of it this morning from chapter 12. I just want to point out that this is the passage that, according to Rashi, the medieval commentator, in his first comment on the Bible, he says, this is where the Bible should begin. This is the first real law. It's the law about how to observe Passover. And it tells you not only how to observe Passover when you're liberated from Egypt, but also how you should observe Passover throughout the generations. What are the traits of the Passover Seder? You do it at home, it's lay-led, children are engaged with asking questions, there's a fixed rule about what you should wear, and there's a rule about what you should eat. So all of those traits of a wonderful Jewish program are all included, and that's why the Passover Seder has been so continuous and so successful as a beloved ritual in our community. It's at home, you don't need a professional to do it, we can all lead a Seder, and it's got all of those things, including having a role for all the generations. So page 308 now, we'll read the beginning of the Magi Aliyah.
Yeah, Lord, Abraham the Sarah, here.
A prayer for healing. Misha, cover the souls. Misha, they are the Lord, we Sofiano, you will take the service for Rafael, we are Rate, et HaCholim, Yekuti Abzelek, Halim, Ben Devorah, Yisrael, Ben Yerah, Kobe, Abigail, Basiel, Luis Miranda, Susel, Basha, Ban Hayatines, Stacy Megalitis, Michelle Langy, Basha Kos, Rafael, Bashmol, Esther Levi, Kaimel, Rachel, Binyamin, Leah, Basha, Mordechai, Ruby, Etta, Maria, Shaw, Langy, Rosenberg, Siegel, Michael Paris, Fletcher Goldenbach, Rafael Oda, Israel Dobin, Sarah Eshka, Sarah Batsara Imenu, Risha Caleb Batsara Eshka, Deborah Ruth Batsara, Meir Ben Basha, Nehama Esther Bat Racha Elia, Malka Bat Rachel, Shoshana Bat Hannah, Barbara Rishaver, Sylvia Gilbermaj, Anna Etta Badlea, the Ed,
Sarah Nita, Sephora, Shomai Adam, Ben Sephora, Paul Wilson, Blake Rogers.
Natar Leo Zachariah, Eva Astra Leo, Shana Zagdil, Yahel Yehovah Leo, Bruno Caro, Yaxi Levine, Phyllis Perry, Alicia Cohen, Stacy Megalitis, and Sean Amy, and one for Lisa Case, Jerry Cortez.
Jeff Benson, Jeff London,
Harry Shear, Ben Israel, Jonathan Gardner.
Brenda Kessler, Spencer
HaKadosh Baruch Hu Mimalei Racham Mimalei, God have mercy and bring speedy healing of mind and body to all those whose names we have mentioned, as well as to those whose names we carry in our hearts. Together with all those who are ill, the Toshar Kolet HaCholim, v'chazek yedidei ha'oskim b'tzorchechem, and may all of us who are caregivers for others, as well as those who are on the line helping protect us in the healthcare world, may they all be strengthened in their important work. Shabbat Kimizizog before Provo Lavo Hashtabago Zman Hori Vinomar. Amen. The second Sefer Torah now is lifted and I began our service this morning by saying that when there are multiple blessings, or rather greetings, you say the most common one first and then the less common one. Well, we've got another choice now. We have three different Haftorahs we can read. We have the Haftorah for Tazria, the Haftorah for Rosh Chodesh, and the Haftorah for Shabbat HaChodesh. So which one do we do? The most common one would be Tazria, the second most common one would be Rosh Chodesh, the least common one would be Shabbat HaChodesh. So in fact, we use a different principle here, and we read an excerpt now from the least often done, so it's not missed, which is Shabbat HaChodesh. So we're going to read just an excerpt without the blessings. Our time is a little compressed today. Page 1290, an excerpt from the beginning of the Haftorah from the prophet Ezekiel 1290. Ezekiel imagines what the temple will look like and what Passover will look like when the Jews return to the land of Israel and the temple is rebuilt. You'll notice that he imagines that just as in the Passover story, we put blood on the doorposts so the angel of death will pass over our homes, Ezekiel imagines sprinkling blood on the doors of the temple so that the temple will be purified. Again, we'll begin with the reading 129. return to our Siddur, page 177. I should call out the end of the readings this morning. Page 177 now, a prayer for our country. And in the words of the prayer for our country, and particularly the vision of peace at the end, we will include in our minds prayers for peace in the Ukraine. Page 177, the 3 paragraphs of the prayer for our country.
Our God and God of our ancestors, with mercy accept our prayer on behalf of our country and its government. Pour out your blessing upon this land, upon its inhabitants, upon its leaders, its judges, officers, and officials who faithfully devote themselves to the needs of the public. Help them understand the rules of justice you have decreed, so that peace and security, happiness and freedom will never depart from our land.
Adonai, God, the Spirit is in all creatures. We pray that your Spirit be awakened within all the inhabitants of our land. Uproot from our hearts hatred and malice, jealousy and strife. Plant love and companionship, peace and friendship among the many peoples and faiths who dwell in our nation. Grant us the knowledge to judge justly, the wisdom to act with compassion, and the understanding and courage to root out poverty from our land.
May it be your will that our land be a blessing to all who dwell on earth, and may you cause all peoples to dwell in friendship and freedom. Speedily fulfill the vision of your prophets. Nation shall not lift up sword against nation, neither shall they learn war anymore. All of them, from the least of them to the greatest, shall know me. And let us say,
Amen. As we stand together for the prayer for Israel, the singing of Hatikvah, we are mindful of the fact that this past 10 days has seen an increase in terror attacks within the land. And we pray that without vengeance or hatred, peace will return and calm to the land and peoples of Israel. Hatikvah.
What page, please?
Hatikvah is found on page 448, if you want to follow in the Siddur.
Nancy? Yes, I'm just finding the page. Okay.
We remain standing the service for putting away the Sefer Torah. On some page or other, exactly. Thank you, Tina. 183? That's a good idea. Page 183, hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
Please be seated, everyone. For those who normally participate in Starbucks Shabbat, I just want to apologize. We will be running a little bit late today. I hope that's all right for everyone. But I am delighted to welcome to be our teacher as part of our preparations for our Haggadah, for our Seder, Lisa Feld this morning. Lisa.
Shabbat, everyone. I'm going to send these around. Take one and pass. We should have enough for everyone. So, this Shabbos, we're celebrating.
Lisa, will you take your mask off so we can?
Absolutely. Is this better?
Yes.
Okay. This Shabbos, we're celebrating Rosh Chodesh Nisan, which means Pesach is only 2 weeks away. We spent a lot of time focusing on the logistics of Passover. Cleaning, cooking, those grocery runs. For many of us, this is also our 3rd year of making Passover in COVID and thinking through how to make a meaningful Seder that is also safe for us and our loved ones. But we spend much less time thinking about how to get ourselves ready for Passover. The tradition tells us each of us should imagine ourselves as having been personally redeemed from Egypt. But what does that mean, and how do we get there? The rabbis of the Mishnah thought of a few ways to answer these questions, most of which have found their way from chapter 10 of Mishnah Pesachim into our Haggadot and our Seders exactly as they originally appeared millennia ago. We eat symbolic foods like matzah, maror, and grosen to create an immersive sensory experience. We tell the story of what happened to us in Egypt, and we tell it in the first person, putting ourselves in our ancestors' shoes. My father was a wandering Aramean. We were slaves in Egypt. God saved us with a mighty hand and an outstretched arm. And of course, we ask questions to tease out what makes this night different from all other nights. But in following this ritual year after year, preserving the tradition, making sure we never forget, we run the risk of falling into a rut. Can we really feel like we personally were slaves who rescued from Egypt, or we're just repeating the same words by rote? How do we engage with the story? How do we give it the immediacy that it deserves? So I wanted to share with you some things that my family has done over the years, and which I offer as possibilities for you to try out in your own Seders to open up the sense of the Passover story in a new way. So first, ask questions. We have a long-standing tradition that every guest needs to bring a question to the Seder, something they genuinely want to learn or discuss relating to the themes of Passover. So this might be grounded in the Passover story or in the ritual of the Seder, like why do we have 3 matzot on the table? Or what happened to the midwives when we left Egypt? They might be intensely personal. How do you get up the courage to leave Mitzrayim, the narrow places in your life, even if you're not sure where you're going? Or they might be political. As the war in Ukraine continues, how do we apply the ideals of fighting genocide and oppression in our own day?
and so on. Our guests often start thinking of their questions way in advance, and after the official 4 questions, we go around the table, each sharing our questions, and then have a discussion seeking answers together. There are always some parts of the conversation that sit with me for a long time afterward and make me consider things I haven't thought of before. So the second idea is to unpack the story. We're told that whoever adds to the story of the going out from Egypt is to be praised. So over the past few years, my family has experimented with the Magi Section, where the Haggadah tells the story of our going down to Egypt, becoming enslaved, and being free. We go around the table. Everyone reads one sentence from the text and interprets that sentence however they want, imagining themselves into that moment. So I'll give you an example of what this can look like. My father was wandering Arabian. It was hard to keep making friends in new places. It was hard to keep starting over. And at a certain point, I learned to stop asking why we had to leave. Every year, different things strike us. We take the story in dozens of new directions. And because we're looking at it with fresh eyes, the old stories have the potential to touch our hearts as though they just happened. So I want to try and experiment with you and do this for ourselves. And I promise, even if we do it here, it's going to be totally different if you choose to do it at your Seder table. But I want us to get a chance to play with this a little. So I handed around the text that appears in your Haggadot of why we are celebrating Passover. And for those of you at home, you can find this if you have a Chumash. It's Deuteronomy chapter 6, starting with verse 5. And it's actually what you're supposed to... did I say 26?
Is it 6 or 26?
Yes, I'm sorry. It's Deuteronomy 26, verse 5. You should look at it if you have a chance. It's what you're supposed to say when you bring first fruits to the temple to explain why you're celebrating that you had a good year. And it found its way into our Haggadah, because this is what we're supposed to hold on to even in good times. So we'll read the text together, one line at a time. Choose a line and raise your hand and imagine yourself into the scene. We can do the first sentence if you wish, if you want to take it in a different direction, or we can start with the second sentence if you feel like we've done that already. So think about it for a second, raise your hand if you want to do the first or the second sentence. Go for it. In the back? Yes.
I have difficulty with the phrase or sentence, and God heard our cry and saw our plight, our misery, and our oppression. I think that's hard to integrate into our daily life. It's the concept of why do bad things happen to good people. Should what's happening in Israel and Ukraine be happening? People are praying for peace and for equity, and yet it's not happening. So how do we sort of justify our prayers to God if God might not be listening? I know that we've done this, we've said this so many times before, that God might hear us but might not answer us at the time. But we've been through so many genocides, Holocausts, and now what's happening, or what continues to happen in Israel, and the horrific situations in Ukraine. So I think it's easy to ask, where is God now?
That's a fair question, and it deserves an answer. So I'm going to depart from my plan to give it the answer it deserves. other people have ideas, like please jump in. What's going on right now is devastating. And it's also, as you say, it's nothing new for us. We've had centuries of painful situations where we ask, where is God in all this? I was struck talking to my best friend this morning about the situation in Ukraine. That this is a circumstance where people stayed to fight. This is a circumstance where the Russian people as well said, we're going to refuse to follow orders. We're going to do public protests, even if it means that ordinary people are put in jail. Well, where I see God in this, and you may see God differently, is in the responses of people. That when God responds to us in Mitzrayim, God sends a person to act, and to activate us to act on our own behalf. And what does that mean in our time? How can we be activated to be God's messengers in this time and do something about the situation? I don't know if that's helpful or if you feel like that's still inadequate.
I think it's a way of interpreting, but how do we account for all of the dead people? We can say that Zelensky is, a wonderful, patriotic leader. Does that help the families of the people who have been ruthlessly murdered?
It doesn't. Yeah, there's never an answer to the giant void of death. We're taught that when someone dies, an entire world is gone. And that doesn't come back. That doesn't come back just because, like, if the war goes well and people win and Russia's pushed back, if Putin is forced to stop, that doesn't bring back the dead. We're absolutely right.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm still, with due respect, dissatisfied with the answer, but I understand that there is no answer.
Yeah, it's a hard time. Other thoughts? Other ideas? Yes.
So, there is a great populous nation. It seems to me that we were told the promise was it will be as numerous as the sand of the sea and the stars in the sky. And yet every time that we reach a sense of great populace, which is not often, and it's not great in the world at large, but our own huge number. It's like, I don't know if it's a little bit of a curse or it's a little bit of a challenge, that every time we seem to have any strength in populace, and people say, I'm accepted. We're a lot of us, and we're accepted. We're part of the world, we're part of the government, whether we have positions of power or whatever. And then it becomes a challenge and a little bit of a curse. Right. So it's interesting in that initial promise that we were told that we'd be as multitudinous as the stars and the sand. That just seems to be always ahead of us, and we can never reach it without falling back.
Yes. Yeah. Very good point. I'm struck that in the actual text in Exodus, when we become great and populous, we're described as swarming, almost like insects. And it's the line right before Pharaoh says, "I'm scared of how many there are," and this is the sign that we need to crack down on population numbers. And there is, I think, an uncertainty that we hold in our hearts, even in good times, of how long does this last, because we know things don't last.
Right.
Yeah.
And we see that with the story of Purim and the story of Pesach and the story of Hitler in World War II and all the anti-Semitic challenges that we face today.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, thank you. Other voices? Do other people want to unpack a line or two? trying this experiment with me. And as my mom is fond of saying, as we get closer to Pesach, I'll be looking for each of you as we go out from Egypt. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. Thank you, Lisa. I really am compelled by that idea of sending an email to everyone who's coming to our Seder to come with a question. That's the entrance fee for this year. So, and we'll talk next week about how to put something on your Seder table to generate a new question. You know, there's been adding oranges and this and that. We'll talk about one of the new ritual inclusions, and we'll hold that for next Shabbat. Again, we'll conclude our service now. I don't know if it's too late for any of the kids to rejoin us, but we're on page 204. We'll conclude with Ein Elohim.
Ein Elohim, Ein Elohim, Ein
Please be seated. We take this moment before the end of our service this morning to recall the lives of people who were close to us and who have died. We note the death just a few days ago of a member of our congregation, Mark Modeste, and we extend our condolences to Mark's wife, Diane, and to their children, Jonathan and Allie, as well as the rest of the family. Mark's funeral will be tomorrow at Sharon, and then Diane and the family will be joining us during the week to recite Kaddish as part of our evening minyan. We also note during the week ahead the Yortzites, the anniversaries of the deaths of Simon Braverman, Erwin Fine, David Weiner, Belle Hochberg, Jack Lemick, Evelyn Levy, Paul Tandler, Howard Weinstein, Jacob Pavlov, Mark Spiro, Dora Burstein, Sam Swardlick, Fanny Chesler, Esther Green, Art Lemick, Sol Levitz, Carl Lusbader, and Judy Mack. The mourners and those who are holding a Yortzeit stand together now for the mourners' Kaddish. It's found in your Siddur on 207. Yikadal v'yikadash me'rava, yomad yivrach yirutei v'yamlichmachotei, v'chaye chon v'yomei v'chaye v'chol beit Yisrael, ba'agonal v'yizman kori v'yimeru, amen. Yehi shmei rabba v'vorach v'olam yomei omayom, yiforach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramad v'yitnasei, V'yitadar, v'yitaleh, v'yitalal, Shemei Kedusha, Rehu, V'yelam Yikol B'yirchata Shirata, Tushbechata V'nechamata, Damiran V'yalma V'yimaru, Amen. Yehi Shlomo Rabba Mishmaya, V'chaim Oleinu V'yal Kol Yisrael, V'yimaru, Amen. Oseh Shalom Yibromav, U'brachavav Yaseh Shalom, Aleinu v'yal kol Yisrael v'yimeru, Amen. Geshabbos Chodesh Tov. The only announcement I want to share is that in 2 weeks from Friday, on the eve of Passover, is the fast of the firstborn. And I'll be completing a body of study on that morning. We'll have a short morning service at 8 a.m. on Friday. This will be the night of the first Seder, so we do want to make sure that we have a minyan that morning, so we'll create a way for people to sign up and make a commitment to join us so that we have a minyan. At the end of the service, there'll be that little bit of study, and then we'll have some coffee and a little bite to eat so that the firstborn can break their fast. As a father of daughters, I've always been a big fan of saying that if Pharaoh was alive today, the firstborn boys and girls would have been threatened. So whether you are a firstborn of either gender, you might consider coming with us and being part of that ritual on Friday. And with that, we will conclude our service. There is coffee, a wonderful new enhancement. We are rebuilding our Kiddush one item at a time. And please do go back and take some time to socialize and greet with one another. Again, my apologies that services went a little bit late, and I forgot to let our friends with 12 o'clock commitments know that in advance. But again, with that note, all should be well, and next Shabbat we will be here one more time at least to have services here in the social hall. We'll conclude our service today on page 211 with Adon Olam.
Adon Olam. Asher Olam.
Amen.